In this video, you will learn the depths and the fundamentals of exploring in Starfield. You'll discover the exploration functionalities of your spaceship and find strange alien locations on planets. And from the depths of the darkest caves to random encounters, exploration in Starfield is an amazing experience that can also lead you to a world of riches. This video then is broken down into a number of chapters. Feel free to skip to whichever section that best suits you. But that said, the video is best watched in a linear order, as I've tried to ensure that each segment progresses in a logical manner. Now, there are some elements of exploration that might overlap with other areas of the game, and this includes advanced shipbuilding as well as outpost building. Neither of these are present in this video. We're focusing purely on exploration here. I'm also not going to touch on elements of the main quest line, as I want to avoid spoilers, and I also won't be touching on what you may or may not find in the highest level star systems. To start with then, to all intents and purposes, exploration in Starfield is broken down into two distinct sections. There's space-based exploration and planetary surface exploration. Now, there are some very distinct links between these two sides of exploration, but to all intents and purposes you can play them separately or together. Let's start with the first section then, and focus on exploration in space. Now, the game world within Starfield is truly massive, 100 different star systems and over 1,000 different planets that you can visit. You'll start off in the central core systems around the solar system and related star systems, and be able to work your way outwards. To the further edges on the right-hand side of the star map, you will find the areas at a much higher level. All star systems are level-based. Further, it's very important to pay attention to the coloration of the stars on the star map. Stars that are glowing, they kind of have this haze around them, indicate stars that you have visited. Surrounding these, you should see other stars that are white in colour but have no glow. These indicate stars that you can visit. In other words, they are in the range of your ship's jump drive. However, you haven't yet visited them previously, hence the lack of glow. Now, further out to the right, you should see stars that are red in colour and have no glow. These stars you cannot jump to and you have not visited. The reason you cannot jump to these stars is very simple. It's because you haven't explored any neighbouring stars. For example, on screen right here, you can see the star named Crix is currently red, and I cannot jump directly to it. To go there first, I'll have to jump to Sagan, which is the nearest unexplored star. You can also see the amount of fuel that it will cost me to jump here. Now, don't worry too much, fuel isn't something that actually gets consumed, it's just something that prevents you jumping too far. So for example, you won't be able to jump directly from one edge of the map to the other. We'll talk a bit more about this further into the video. For now though, I'm about to jump to Sagan, and as soon as I arrive there, it will become a visited star system. You'll now see, when we head back to the star map, the star system Crix has changed from a red star to a white star without a glow. That means we can visit there, it is now in range, and we have an explored route. Of course, you never really know what you're going to find when you arrive at a new star system, and this one, at this particular time, is looking like a slightly bad idea, isn't it? I'll let you take a guess as to whether I survived this particular encounter. Right, so let's move on to other areas of the star map. Here you have access to planet maps and star system maps. From here you can scan planets. You just need to be in orbit around the planet. You can press the R key or select the button on the left there, and this will scan the planetary surface, allowing you to see which resources are available. These are used for crafting, base building and other such things. Now, to scan a planet or a moon, you'll need to be in orbit around it. These ones I'm not in orbit of, and therefore I cannot scan them. However, if you feel you'd like to be able to scan at a further range, you can come into your perk screen and spend a few points. You need to unlock astrophysics. To do this, you'll need to have spent 7 points in total in the science branch. From here, you can expand your scanning range. The first rank allows you to scan moons around the current planet. The second rank allows you to scan all planets within the current star system. The third rank, all planets and moons within 16 light years. And the fourth rank, all planets and moons within 30 light years. So as said, scanning the planet allows you to discover resources. But it also allows you to discover something else, and this is the planetary traits. Here I'm looking at Titan, and down on the information panel on the left there, you can see it has 2 traits. Both of these are question marks, and that means we know the traits exist on the planet, but we haven't yet actually discovered them. I'll talk more about planetary traits when we get to the planetary surface exploration part of the video, but just so that you know what they are right now, they are unusual or rare areas on a planetary surface. We'll go into more details about that in just a moment. Returning to space then, and remaining on the subject of space scanning, this is very important within your ship. Your ship comes with a scanner built into it. You can access this by pressing F on the keyboard or the LB button on your controller. Doing so will give you additional information on your surrounding areas. For example, here we can see a landing zone on the planet in front of us. We can see the stats on the planet as well, in addition to its survey status, and of course we can see a bunch of markers around us. These can be other planets or other star systems, but they can also be other ships as well, or even cargo containers and other things we can interact with. Now, in addition to giving us information on our surroundings, it also allows us to interact with certain objects. For example, if we hover over this icon, we can directly land. We don't need to use the star map to do that. We can just land directly from here, pressing the R key. Alternatively, we can select a different planetary body within the star system, and you can see we now have a travel option. Selecting that will give us a quick cutscene here, and we will then arrive at the new destination. We can do all of this without having to rely on the star map, so that is a very useful feature. Additionally, you can also travel from here to other star systems by using the same function. Now, the spaceship scanner is one of the most important features that will allow you to have a whole variety of different space-based encounters. This can be simply meeting up with other ships. It can lead to encounters with space stations, or it can, lead to a whole bunch of different mini-quests as well. It can be very, very interesting, and it's one of the best parts about space, in my opinion. In this example, I encountered a spaceship which was requesting some help. I flew over to it and docked with it, and after briefly exploring the ship's interior, I discovered the ship's captain. They asked for some help, said their ship was in trouble, and, could I help repair it? Being the passive person I am, I opted not to steal the person's ship and instead to actually help them out. There's a bunch of damaged panels around the ship. Simply locating them and clicking on them was enough to do the job. This then was just one among many of the vast number of different space encounters that you can have. Some of them will be just exploration based, some will allow you to talk with NPCs and help them out, others still will get you involved in combat, either ship-to-ship combat or boarding activity. In short then, don't rely too much on fast travel, otherwise you're going to miss out on a whole section of the game and all these amazing space encounters. I won't go through all the different encounters that you can have because 1, there's far too many of them, and 2, the real pleasure is in discovering them for yourselves. Okay, so now it's time to turn our attention away from the stars and down to the surface of planets. Here, there's a whole bunch of different activities that you can get involved in. One of the most important things when it comes to planetary exploration though, of course, just like with the spaceships, is your scanner. This all works in much the same way. To scan the planets of surfaces to explore them, press the F key or the LB button on your controller and that will bring up your scanner. From here you can see a whole bunch of different information. On the left we can see how much flora and fauna and resources that we have discovered. For example, here there's 1 out of 7 fauna so far discovered. Additionally, below this information, you can see 2 circles with the question marks in. These are the planetary traits that we discovered earlier whilst up in space. Further, at the top of this information panel, we can see how much of this planet is so far surveyed, 46% in this particular case. Now, moving on to the centre of the screen, underneath my targeting reticule, you can see I've positioned one of the environmental icons. And to the right, I've got a little bit more information on this particular icon. As you're exploring planetary surfaces, you'll see a whole bunch of different icons, but essentially, different icons represent different types of structures or locations. This one in particular is currently unknown. This is very easily rectified. If we press the E key on the keyboard, it will give a very quick scan to this target and give us a little bit more detailed information. In this case, it is a natural location. It's not a structure, this is natural. It'll also give us some distance to that target. We're walking over to it, and when we get nearby, we will find out that this is actually one of the planetary traits that we were looking for. In this case, it tells us it's an unexplored biological feature. But this isn't the completion of the process. We do need to do something else, and that involves searching at this feature for a particular area, a particular object that we can scan. Now, different traits have a different number of objects that we need to scan. In this case, it was just one item. We can see it highlighted, silhouetted in blue in the center of the screen there. Once in range, with the scanner open, I can press the E key. It's scanned, and you can now see that this is an exposed root system. There's many different types of planetary traits you can discover. Here's another example, an unexplored chemistry feature. Again, you'll need to search around it to try and find the areas that you need to scan. Sometimes it's not immediately obvious what you need to scan, but just persevere and eventually you will find it. In this case, we've discovered fungal growths. Also, on the left-hand side of the screen here, with the scanner open, you will now notice that those two circular question marks are now filled in. It means we've discovered all of the traits on this planet. Now, when down on planets, you can also discover a whole variety of other locations. For example, right here, you can see we found an unknown element. Scanning this reveals to us that it is a structure. This means that the area is man-made. If, on the other hand, you prefer to find natural locations, you can search for areas such as caves. Structures can range in size and be anything from small civilian outposts to massive military complexes and even underground facilities. Caves, meanwhile, are a lot of fun to explore and can certainly bring you a few resources and sometimes even hostile encounters. Okay, so let's turn our attention to Flora and Fauna, and maybe even resources too. All of these are things that you'll need to discover on the planet if you wish to fully survey it. Now, this process is very simple. All you have to do is bring up your scanner and move towards some flora or fauna and then select it using the E key or I believe the A button on the controller. You have to scan the same type of breed a number of times, and then eventually it will turn from solid blue to a solid green, meaning that you have fully surveyed that particular object. You can also do the same for resources. Here is a resource node. Once we've scanned it, I've scanned it enough times, it's turned green. You'll need to do the same for animals as well, and do keep in mind that some animals can be aggressive and hostile. Eventually, once you've scanned everything, the planet will become 100% surveyed. Okay, so let's move on to surface encounters, and I'll keep this section fairly short. Just as with space encounters, there's a whole load of different things you can find here, and I really don't want to spoil them for you. So one of the things you will encounter, of course, is aggressive and hostile animals, so do keep this in mind. You will need to be prepared for this. Make sure you take a suitable weapon, and make sure you're suitably equipped in terms of, armor, so your spacesuit. Also, be prepared to fully encounter NPCs. Some of these will just roam up to you if you're lucky and offer you a mission or ask for help. These are well worth pursuing, as quite often these missions can be particularly interesting and quite detailed. Other times they can be a simple fetch quest, so worth finding out because you don't know which of the two you might get. In this case though, all they wanted was to be transported from A to B. Other times I've had encounters that have sent me to full-on underground facilities and some massive conflicts. Other encounters, these can be a little bit either on the funny side, the glitchy side, or just the downright strange side. Here, for example, the NPCs were having a combat experience with some robots, and this didn't pan out well for either them or for me. Okay, now I said at the start of the video I won't be touching on areas such as shipbuilding or outpost building. One thing you might want to know is what traits, background and perks are worth picking. Now for me, when it comes to background, I wasn't too concerned about any of this, and if you're far into your game, then don't worry, this isn't going to have a massive impact. All it really affects is what perks you actually start out with. If you know you're going to explore, then the obvious choice might seem like Explorer, and this is a pretty good option. However, another surprisingly good option is Soldier, and it's very simply because you'll have a high level of fitness granting you more oxygen. You'll also start out with a boost pack ability, and both of these make it much easier for you to travel. In terms of other perks you might want, here are a few recommendations. Weightlifting, you're going to find a lot of different resources and other items you're going to want to carry, so complete the challenges for each of these and max the weightlifting item. Fitness is also very good because the more oxygen you have, i.e. the more stamina you have, the further and faster you're going to be able to run. Other options include astrodynamics, geology, and even surveying, although both of these I consider options and haven't actually gone for them myself. One thing I really did want though is boost pack training. This allows you to use your boost pack to get much higher altitudes, and therefore I feel it is very worthwhile, especially when you really feel the need to traverse across the planetary surfaces. Traits, meanwhile, are something you'll choose at the start of the game. Again, don't worry too much if you have already chosen your traits. These are not going to affect things too much. One thing I recommend here is choosing either spaced or terra firma. This will give you an oxygen and health boost when you're in space, but decreased on planetary surfaces, or vice versa if you choose terra firma. Now, these are not ideal if you plan on spending a lot of time in both locations, but if you prefer to choose one over the other, they're certainly worth considering. Extrovert and introvert give you a buff depending on whether you take companions with you or not. If you're an extrovert, you get a buff for taking companions. If you're an introvert, you get a buff for going out alone. These again can be quite helpful when exploring. The final trait that you might like is alien DNA, and I didn't use this one myself, but it's quite handy. You'll gain extra oxygen and health at the start of the game. Well, that brings us to the end of this video then. I really do hope that the guide has been of use to you and of help. If it has, please do leave a like and subscribe. Also, well, please let me know about any discoveries that you've made in Starfield that you feel are especially outstanding, or any funny events that you've encountered. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.